Hello and welcome into another episode of Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. I'm Kyle Glaser, going solo today as we break down the Padres' most recent road trip. They went 2-4 on the road trip against the Houston Astros and the Detroit Tigers. Wrapped it up earlier this morning with a 6-0 loss to the Tigers. They managed only 2 hits. It was the first time the Padres have been shut out this season. Obviously not the outcome the Padres nor anyone else hoped for. A 2-4 road trip isn't ideal no matter how you look at it. Right now, the Padres are hurting, and we are really starting to see the effects of all their position player injuries start to take a toll on their offense. Jackson Merrill is injured. Jake Cronenworth is injured. Luis Arias is now injured. He is on the 7-day concussion IL going through protocol after his very scary collision Sunday against Houston. And even beyond them, some of the guys who are more the second-tier starters and even the backups are hurt right now. Jason Hayward went on the IL over the weekend against the Astros. Brendan Lockridge, of course, went on the IL last week. The Padres are really hurting right now. And I think it's very important to look at their recent performance through the lens of this is a team that is operating at way less than full strength and just take that, zoom out a little bit and give them a little bit of grace. So to put it in perspective right now, the Padres already have used 18 different position players this season. The only two teams that have used as many position players as they have are the Chicago White Sox and the Miami Marlins, two rebuilding clubs that are cycling through guys, just trying to figure out who's a keeper, who's not, who's someone that should be a part of our future, who isn't. No other contender has had to deal with the position player churn the Padres have had so far already this season. And inevitably, whenever you lose so many talented players, there's going to be a come down. The Padres offense really stood out this series for just how different it looked compared to early in the season. And I don't mean just visibly in terms of who's in the lineup, but just how potent it was. On this past road trip, these past 6 games against the Astros and the Tigers, the Padres offense hit 223 as a team. They averaged 2.5 runs a game, 15 runs over 6 games. This is not the offense we saw at the beginning of the season. And when you lose the personnel they have, it becomes very difficult to maintain that same level. You look at the Padres starting lineup today against the Tigers, against Reese Olson, who I mentioned on Twitter a little while ago, as well as on the season preview podcast, the series preview podcast with Mike Cameron, is pretty much the best pitcher you haven't heard of. This lineup today had 5 guys who would not be in the starting lineup if everyone was healthy and everyone was rested. The top 4 in the lineup are all players who would be, but Xander Bogaerts, who's batting cleanup, typically would be hitting 6th. You have Tatis, Sheets, Machado, Bogaerts. Those are the 4 guys who, when everyone is right, everyone's healthy, everyone is clicking, they're going to be in the starting lineup. When you have 5 guys who typically would not be in the lineup for you, going up against one of the best pitchers in baseball in Reese Olson in a very pitcher-friendly park like Comerica Park, that's just a very tough challenge. That's when you see things like this happen. Managing only 2 hits, getting shut out. Again, it's a tough day at the ballpark. No one wants that outcome, but I think it's just important to keep everything in context. The Padres did face some good pitchers this series. Framber Valdez, the finale in Houston, a game they won. He's been one of the best pitchers in baseball for years, just doesn't get the love he deserves. Jack Flaherty, we know he's a stud. Reese Olson, as I've talked about, is a really darn good pitcher that more and more people are starting to realize. The Padres saw that firsthand today. But by the same token, they didn't see Tarek Skubal, the reigning AL Cy Young Award winner. They didn't see Hunter Brown, who's one of the best young pitchers in baseball when they face Houston. So it could have been worse in terms of the guys they were facing, and they still really struggled. The Padres offense right now is in survival mode. Just try and keep your head above water. Try and get some production from guys who really you wouldn't be counting on for production to just keep things going at even just an average level. Because if they can do that, we know how good this pitching staff is, the rotation, the bullpen. And again, some of their starters did not pitch great this road trip. Kyle Hart, twice did not have the type of outing you would have wanted to see from him. But more often than not, the Padres pitching staff is going to deliver. They're going to hold opponents to that 3-4 run range. And if you're just getting decent production from the bottom half of your lineup, Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado can carry the load. Gavin Sheets has stepped up in a huge way this year. Again, Xander Bogaerts, he's not what he was in his prime with Boston. The guy who was able to hit 300 with 20 to 30 homers and driving 100 plus runs a year. He has not been that guy for a few years, but he's still someone who can hit reasonably 270, 280, a lot of doubles, driving 60 runs. Again, a perfectly solid number 6 type hitter. It's going to be about some of the other guys at the bottom of the order stepping up. We've seen Jose Iglesias do that. He had the Padres 2 hits today. He's up to 298 on the year. He's bounced around the infield a little bit. He's dropped a few balls that are tough plays and were definitely hits. I think just with Jose Iglesias, you're accustomed to seeing him make the plays. That little bloop in Houston that bounced off his glove that dropped in. Against Detroit on Tuesday, we saw a hard ground ball, took a bad hop. I think we're just so used to Jose Iglesias making those defensive plays. It was a little surprising to see him not make them. At the same time, they're difficult plays, they're hits. It's not really his fault. And he's doing what the Padres brought him in to do, which is move around the infield, make some nice defensive plays, can make consistent contact, and be someone at the bottom of the order that could be a weapon and get the lineup back to the top. But they're going to need more. And this is where it's all about guys who you don't necessarily expect to be standouts really stepping up. This is where Oscar Gonzalez, this is where Tirso Ornelas, this is where Martin Maldonado and Elias Diaz, who have certainly had their moments. Elias Diaz with a 2-run homer yesterday. Martin Maldonado at points this year has hit above 250, even over 300. But on the whole right now, Diaz is batting sub 200. Maldonado's back into the 220s. You just need a little more from them. This is where it's time for guys to step up. And I think it's really, really important to note that what I mean by that is step up and just help the team keep their heads above water. Even if everyone steps up, it's not like this offense is going to be able to produce at a level as it would with a healthy Rise, with a healthy Merrill, with a healthy Cronenworth. And I think it's really important to go back to last year where this is exactly what happened. The Padres, you'll have to remember, were without Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove, Fernando Tatis Jr. for significant chunks in the early portion of the season. Manny Machado was not 100% healthy with his elbow and had the worst start of his career, had a really, really tough first half. Xander Bogaerts got hurt, missed most of the first half. Ha-Sung Kim took a step back. A lot of key guys were not able to perform to the level expected. And guys who were not necessarily known commodities at the time stepped up. Let's not forget, Michael King at this point last year was a career swingman who was completely unproven as a starter over a full season. He had never started more than 9 games in a year. What does he do? He steps up, takes the leap, becomes a top 10 finisher in NL Cy Young Award voting. Jackson Merrill at this time last year was a rookie who'd had a good first month, but we see rookies have great first months all the time and then hit that rookie wall. You don't really know what you're going to get. He steps up, has a tremendous season, and is steady and consistent all the way through. Finishes not just runner-up rookie of the year voting, top 10 NL MVP voting. Jurickson Profar signed for 1 year, $1 million, steps up, has the best season of his career, becomes an all-star. Yes, he has since tested positive for PEDs, but for the purposes of last year, the point is Michael King, Jackson Merrill, and Jurickson Profar at this time last year were unproven commodities. It was not obvious that these guys were going to step up and become stars. And even with those guys stepping up and having the big first halves they did to help keep this team afloat, the Padres were 50-50 a day after the All-Star break last year. This was still a 500 team. And then as everyone started coming back, as Joe Musgrove came back, as Yu Darvish came back, as Manny Machado started getting healthy, as Xander Bogaerts came back, that's when they took off. That's when they had the best record in baseball over the second half. So in order for them to just keep their heads above water, we're not talking about going off and putting out a start like they had already where they went 15-4. We're talking about if they can just go 500 over these next couple weeks for as long as Merrill and Cronenworth and Arise are out, that is a win. And now it's just going to be about who's going to be the guys to step up, because when you have series like this, road trips like this, where you hit 223 as an offense and average under 2.5 runs a game, that's not something that's going to be sustainable for success. That's not going to help this team stay afloat. The Padres are off to a fantastic start this season. That franchise best 7-0 start and extending that to 15-4, that cushion they've built is so huge right now, because as we've talked about, they do not have a lot of organizational depth. They don't have the guy the Dodgers do in Dalton Rushing waiting in AAA. That is a everyday caliber big leaguer who they can call up. And, he's young, but that potential's in there. The Diamondbacks having a Jordan Lawler, the Giants on the pitching side having a Kyle Harrison. These players who are waiting in AAA who project to be everyday players, the Padres don't have that. They've have a lot of guys who project to be depth guys, bench guys, and they've had to call upon them already. Realistically, the Padres' goal is just survive right now. If they can go 500 over this stretch, when we look back, when Merrill hopefully gets back relatively soon, when Cronenworth gets back, and when Arias hopefully gets back, if they've gone 500 with really from the day Merrill went out, that's a win. They just need to maintain and survive. And to be clear, it does not make sense for them to try and rush anyone back just because the offense is starting to slump a little bit. It's still April. There's a lot of baseball left. You want these guys healthy and fresh and 100% for the long run. And when you look at Jackson Merrill, hamstrings are very, very, very tricky. You do not want to rush him back just because the offense is scuffling here a little bit in April on the road against two teams in the Astros and Tigers who were playoff teams last year. You don't want to rush Jake Cronenworth back before his rib is fully healed. And you certainly don't want to rush Luis Arias back until he's out of concussion protocol and he is 100% okay. That was a very, very scary collision. When you talk about head injuries, you want to take the conservative route. So overall, if you're the Padres right now, you let these guys come back on their own timeline because you want them healthy for the full season. But in the interim, it's about other guys stepping up, whether that's Oscar. Yeah, Gavin Sheets has stepped up. We feel like we have to mention Gavin Sheets on every episode, and he deserves it with how big he's been for this team already. Jose Iglesias, he has stepped up. He has done some big things. Those two you feel good about. Fernando Tatis Jr. is playing like a superstar. He's playing like an MVP. Manny Machado is playing like a star. Xander Bogaerts is doing some good things. Again, you'd like to see a little more impact, but as long as he's driving doubles into the gaps, you're good. That's what you can expect from him. And now it's about the Oscar Gonzalez's of the world, the Tirso Ornellis's of the world, the Elias Diaz's of the world, stepping up and being consistent. It's about a guy like a Kyle Hart bouncing back from two not great starts, coming back home to Petco Park, his next turn through, and delivering a great start. He's been very good at home. It's about Randy Vasquez building off of his strong start to the season. Again, he did not pitch well in the opener in Detroit. Bad games happen, but if he can continue to keep runs off the board like he has, that's what it's going to come down to. The Padres are just trying to survive right now. They've built up a good cushion for themselves. And we saw on this road trip, though, the injuries are taking a toll on the offense. You just can't replace the caliber of hitter like Luis Arias, who is one of the best pure hitters in baseball, and I would argue is the best pure hitter in baseball. Jackson Merrill is a superstar, one of the best young talents in the game. Jake Cronenworth is a two-time All-Star who, even in his bad years, is still a solid contributor. Those guys just aren't available on the waiver wire. Those guys just aren't available for trade this early in the season. You're not going to be able to replace their production. You just have to get even average production and try to keep your head above water. That's what the Padres will try and do. We're going to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors. Then we're going to dive into the upcoming series against the Tampa Bay Rays, which is coming at a really good time, and also take a look ahead at what some of the other options might be if the Padres do feel like they need to go out and make some additions. Keep it right here on Friar Territory. We'll be back after this break.
FT fam, I hope you have as much confidence as Penelope right now, who is an avid Spot and Tango fan, okay? And she uses the code FOUL, Kratz, because this is a personalized dog food subscription service that prevents you, of course, from going to the store to pick up the food, and she just gets the highest quality unkibble. That is what they're known for. And I know you love the quiz part of it, too.
It's a super quick quiz, but it lets you give them the information and they tailor it to what is needed based on their age, size, activity level, all things that are custom for each and every one of your dogs.
Yeah, human grade ingredients in that unkibble, USDA meat, fruits, and veggies that are approved there. Upgrade your pet's bowl with Spot and Tango Unkibble. Go for it. For a limited time, go to spotandtango.com/foul. Use code FOUL to get 50% off your first order. That is spotandtango.com/foul. Code FOUL to get 50% off your first order at spotandtango.com/foul. Code FOUL.
All right, welcome back to Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. I'm Kyle Glaser, recapping the Padres' most recent road trip. As we mentioned before the break, the Padres went 2-4 on their road trip, and we're seeing the injuries take a toll on the offense. The Padres hit 223 and averaged 2.5 runs per game. Excuse me, and it was not pretty. This is just the state of the Padres right now with all the injuries, as we've discussed. The question now is, what can they do about it, aside from relying on the guys they have in-house to step up? May is an interesting time because this is when a lot of veterans have opt-outs from their minor league deals. David Peralta is a great example of this. Last year, he opted out of his minor league deal with the Cubs. The Padres picked him up in May, and we all know what a huge role he played. We will see who opts out in May. There's always a collection of guys that are on minor league deals that are in AAA, and then they opt out, and major league team picks them up, and sometimes it's what they need, and they get production. The Padres, of course, saw that in a big way with Peralta. And the other thing is, last year in May, the Padres made the trade with the Marlins for Luis Arraez. Now, that's a bit of a different situation because the Marlins are a team that is just trying to rebuild and stripping away any and every veteran they can. There's not really any other teams right now that are probably going to be willing to trade an all-star caliber hitter in early May. You never know, but generally speaking, for the Padres right now, if they're going to make outside additions, it is going to have to come from those AAA opt-outs. And we've seen, again, one thing to give the Padres scouting group credit for is they've done a pretty good job finding guys on these minor league deals that are able to make an impact. We've talked a lot about Gavin Sheets, the great work done by Dom Viola, who has White Sox organization coverage for the Padres, and Pete DeYoung, their pro scouting director, seeing that Gavin Sheets was someone that was worth bringing in. Talk about with Jose Iglesias, again, a little more of a proven commodity, but David Peralta last year, you have to remember, was a great player with a great career behind him, but he really hadn't hit in recent years. He had struggled in his minor league stint with the Cubs, comes to San Diego, makes some changes, and all of a sudden he was one of their low-key MVPs in a way toward the end of the season, especially just how he helped stabilize them in left field a little bit and the DH spot. So I think for the Padres, it's just going to come down to finding someone who can help them among those AAA opt-out guys. Otherwise, it is going to have to come from in-house options. We'll see if that's enough to keep them afloat. Again, I think everyone needs to modify their expectations and say 500. That is the goal. If we look back and we have gone 500, really from the time that Jackson Merrill and Jake Cronenworth went out, it's a win. And then especially that's true now that Luis Arraez is out. Looking ahead, the Padres get a much, much, much needed break. They're coming back home, where we have seen this is a different team at home. They're 12-1 at home. It's not just the record. You see when they're at home, there's a different vibe. There's a different verve. There's a different swagger when they have a packed house at Petco Park behind them. You feel like they're never out of any game. On the road, it hasn't quite been the same. You see the offense sometimes get into ruts and they struggle to get out of it. So coming home at the right time is huge for the Padres. And the other thing is they're facing a Tampa Bay Rays team that is really scuffling right now. So the Rays have not won a game on the road yet this year. And they're 9-14 as of this recording. And again, the Rays are always a team that finds a way. They play clean baseball. They always have some good arms. But realistically, just where the Rays are right now, they're scuffling. And they have not been good away from their temporary home at Steinbrenner Field. So the Padres are going to get a team that they should be able to handle at a time they really need them. I think these upcoming 3 games at Petco Park are going to be really, really key for them at a really important time for them. Then they have a day off, and then they have a 2-game set against the San Francisco Giants to wrap up the month. The Giants are a red-hot team playing great baseball right now. We will look ahead to that when the time comes, because the Padres roster could look a little different than we mentioned. Merrill, Cronenworth, these guys are going to start being eligible to come off the IL between now and that series starts. So we'll see if they do. Again, you don't want to rush anyone back right now. It's mostly just important for the team to get these guys healthy so that when they do come back, they're 100% able to hit the ground running and able to help the Padres really take off. It's okay. This team having these injuries now. They're not playing their best in April. That's when you want it to happen. You don't want it to happen in September when you are playing for your season. That's not when you want guys to get hurt and all of a sudden you have to rely on a lot of backups who aren't quite able to perform to the highest level possible for your club. If this is going to happen, April is the time for it to happen. So once again, I think it's important to zoom out, take a look at the big picture, see what this Padres team has accomplished and where they are. As we sit here right now, the Padres are 17-8. They are right there, depending on the outcome of the Mets and Dodgers games later today. After today, they will have either the best record in baseball, tied for it, or the second best record in baseball. That is a really, really, really good place to be. As I mentioned, they're 12-1 at home compared to 5-7 on the road. They're coming back home. At the end of the day, this is still a good team that's had a great start to the season. Don't let a recent road trip that didn't go great when the team was playing at not even half strength, as I mentioned, 5 starters in today's lineup would not be starting for this team if everyone was healthy. Don't let a 2-4 road trip where the team has less than half of their regulars in the lineup in the finale put a damper on the outcomes expected for the season. This is still a good team that plays good baseball, and right now it's just about surviving until the guys get healthy. Hopefully that'll be sooner rather than later, but we'll see when that happens. That'll do it for today's wrap-up edition of Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. Go ahead and give us a review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, whatever platform you're watching and listening on. We would love to hear from you. We will have Heath Bell joining us tomorrow to break down the upcoming series against the Rays, as well as look ahead to what the Padres should expect moving forward as they start to get healthy. Once again, I'm Kyle Glaser. Thanks for watching and listening. See you tomorrow.